Hi, I'm Madison.
And I'm Caitlin.
Welcome to the What We Carry Together podcast.
Because no one should have to carry it alone.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the What We Carry Together podcast. This is episode 5, and today we have some exciting news, and we're also going to talk about the kind of emotional and deeper journey of what got us here. So today, Maddie, do you want to talk about what we're carrying?
Yeah, and we'll decipher as, Caitlin becomes surrogate and our journeys become a little different about what we're carrying. But I think right now we're carrying hope and some disbelief in a good way. Yeah. So we got not the call, but we got the email.
And where were you when you got the email?
So I was in our portal, but as we had said in our last podcast, we were expecting to find out on Monday because day 6 of our cycle was when you get the news, but that was a Sunday. So we were like, there's no way we'll find out Sunday. And Sunday morning, we woke up and very early got a notification, and because Mayo Clinic is amazing. And I was like, Mills, we got the message. And he laid down with me, and we actually recorded it because I want our kids to see it one day. And we opened up the message, we read it out loud, and found out that we had 7 blastocysts and 1 that was continuing to grow, and that they would monitor and let us know on Monday. And on Monday, we found out that 8th blastocyst did grow, and we have 4 that are grade A and 4 that are grade B.
I feel like I'm a little bit in disbelief too, but I mean, that's really, really exciting news.
Yeah, I wanted to save it for the pod, but it was too late. So I FaceTimed you and told you immediately, but I recorded because I was just, I knew you were chomping at the bit to know. And it was cool because I knew you were expecting to hear Monday, but like us, you weren't expecting to hear Sunday. So I really got you by surprise.
You absolutely did. Yeah, because I was not expecting you to say that on Sunday.
Yeah, and Monday they messaged me through the portal and said that good news, the 8th embryo reached blastocyst stage, and now we are sending them all off for PGT, and 4 were grade A and 4 were grade B, which all have a great likelihood of a good baby.
And so what's the difference between grade A and grade B?
So they're both good grades. A is high and good quality for the inner cell mass, which is the part that becomes the baby, and then the part of the cells that become the placenta. And then grade B is good quality with a moderate number of cells that are like slightly less packed or organized as the grade A. I guess it's good when they're tightly packed together. And then B, they're more loosely structured.
Well, that's great. Okay, so it is these 8 embryos that are sent off for genetic testing, right?
So basically, we're waiting for them to be euploid embryos, which means that they have the right number of chromosomes, and however many are euploid embryos are the ones that are appropriate for transfer. So they'll do a grade A euploid embryo would be the first to transfer.
Awesome. And I feel like you're very cautiously optimistic, which I would be too, right? I mean,
I still feel detached. I was so excited when we got the numbers, and it's 8 is such a good number because it's hard to imagine that it will go from 8 at this stage to nothing. So I'm feeling fairly confident we'll have at least 1, but I just have spent so much time on the side of disappointment and rejection that even in this stage, it's pretty difficult to just accept it. But I still feel really happy. I feel like I've lost 10,000 pounds. Last week I said 5,000. This week I will say 10,000.
Yeah. And then I know you said that through all of this, you've had something on your heart that you really want to talk about on today's episode. So do you want to go ahead and get into that?
Yeah, so I found a video of myself that I recorded because I was kind of keeping journaling and video recording what I was going through because I needed an outlet, and I found one of those videos, and in the video I just was in such a dark place, and it was just weeks ago, and so I realized how quickly things can change and how drastically. And it wasn't even how quickly things can change because I was in that space on and off for about 2 years. And I have had some people reach out to me that have been listening to the podcast who are also in that space. And it's very important for me to emphasize the reason that we're doing this podcast is because one of the reasons we want to provide hope for people, because everyone is going to experience trauma at some point in your life, and perhaps more than once. And I would consider my dissections and finding out I can't carry a baby trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through trauma, and everyone's trauma is different, for me, it very much felt like I knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel, because I knew whether we do surrogacy, whether we adopt, whether we do donor egg and surrogacy, whatever path we take, we're going to end up with a child, because I'm dead set on it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't know how that's going to happen. We do not have a plan. We're just meeting with adoption agencies, meeting with different clinics to see if they'll do IVF, meeting with attorneys, trying to figure out any which way to have a child. And I knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel, but that doesn't necessarily give you relief, because the tunnel feels very suffocating, very suffocating. And I just wanted to kind of talk about the things that have gotten me through. They didn't take away the tunnel, they didn't take away the pain, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that got me through that tunnel, that now that I'm at a space where it's not over, but I feel like I'm at a space that is better than I've been in a really long time. And I can look back on and say, those things were really important. I'm really glad that I had that view, or I did it that way, and just maybe offer that advice to anyone listening going through a trauma tunnel. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm praying for you, and my heart is with you if you are going through a trauma tunnel. And so while it's so important to celebrate the light at the end, which is where we are, I think it's really important to advocate and shed light on the people that are struggling, and,
Mm-hmm.
do what I can to give some advice that I would have liked to hear and did hear while I was going through what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going through.
Yeah, I think that's really great and special that that's something that you want to focus on right now. Um, so when you think back to the hardest season of all of this, what emotion stands out to you the most?
Despair. I mean, I wouldn't, and like, I don't know how to explain it as emotions. I'm just saying despair, but
Mm-hmm.
claustrophobia. Like, I felt so claustrophobic, because no matter where I went, I couldn't get out of the situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I watched a show to distract myself, when I turned the show off, my problem would still be there. If I went and did something, when I came home, the problem would still be there. And so I just felt so claustrophobic
Mm-hmm.
during this time.
Yeah, and I would imagine, um, not like with that tunnel that you're talking about, it's like not knowing when that light is gonna be. That would feel very, um, claustrophobic, because you just don't know how long you're gonna have to
Yeah.
go
And
through
I think
this.
I also want to explain that I'm still in a way in the tunnel,
Yeah.
because I still don't know when I'm going to have a kid. I don't know. I don't know if the surrogacy is going to work. There's so much I don't know. And so, like, I'm very much in the present. However, I still have struggles ahead. But when I was in this stage of despair, I couldn't, it was so hard to stay in the present. So
Mhm.
hard. So I think, like, the first piece of advice is giving yourself grace. And people would always tell me that, and I would be like, what does that even mean? Because I feel like I'm laying around doing nothing, because I'm so devastated. And I would kind of tie in, like, give yourself grace and guard your heart. So, um, I actually, and I'm thankfully I was able to do this, but I called into work. I was at a law firm, and we were responsible for billing hours and meeting requirements. And the thought of working after they told me that I had fibromuscular dysplasia and carrying a child wouldn't be safe, I was like, I can't do my clients justice right now. And like, I called a few partners at my firm, and I just was very honest and said, look, I just got really bad news. I don't want to lose my job, because I love working here, but I don't think I can work right now. And they put me in touch with someone in HR, where I was able to take leave, and I took 6 weeks off of work. And I took FMLA, and I felt really embarrassed at the time, at the beginning, about having to do that, because I was like, so many people are going through so much and are so tough. And it's like, but why do you need to be tough? If you're able to take time, I think it's really important to take time. And I realize that's a luxury that not everybody has. But if you're able to do it, don't feel embarrassed about it, because I took that time off and I was just trying to get myself back, be able to breathe back and take something off my plate that didn't need to be there. So even if you can't take off work, is there something on your plate that you're a part of, some kind of committee, some kind of group, some responsibility that you can press pause on and not care about what people think when you do that? Because everything, when you feel claustrophobic that's on your plate that doesn't have to be there, just makes it feel even heavier.
That makes sense. And then I feel like too, I don't think you ever really took time to process your FMD diagnosis, because it's like the, we we're just talking about how like the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're kind of saying that, and I feel like we've kind of focused on just solely the IVF aspect of it, but it's also, you have that tunnel of your chronic illness that is very unpredictable, and the stress of that too. Like, I think that it was great that you were able to prioritize your mental health, because that is just as, if not sometimes more important than your physical health.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to go easy on yourself, not compare yourself to others, because when you're going through that tunnel, you know it. You don't need to be hard on yourself, because life is already being hard on you. And when you do give yourself grace, so I would talk to your HR and see what options are available for you. I would talk to your partner if you need more help with the kids. I would talk to your family if there's any way that they can step in and support you. Look to your village and see where you can get support, and don't be afraid to ask for it. And then part of giving yourself grace is guarding your heart. I have RSVP'd no to every single baby shower, even one that I hosted, my sister-in-law's, that was really hard for me because I'm so close with her and I love her to pieces. I love her baby to pieces, but it was at a really hard time for us and I just couldn't do it. So I didn't go to baby showers, and I feel sad. I feel bad that I'm not able to be there to support them. However, I know it's what's best for me and my mental health. And the people that care about you, they understand and they hurt for you. And, that was immediately what my sister-in-law said. She was crying and was like, not because she was mad we weren't there. She was crying because she was like, I hate that you guys have to go through this. Like, it feels like you guys can't catch a break. And that felt really good to hear because it's validation. I also, if you go through my muted list on my social media right now, it's probably pretty much all of my friends for their posts and their stories, because if there was a pregnancy or a newborn baby, you're probably muted on my Instagram, just because it's like, we control what we see on our feed. And if something is not serving you, you don't have to unfollow them. They don't have to know that you even did it, but just mute it. You don't need to see it. Don't add something else to your life. And even if it's not, a pregnancy or a baby, like if it's someone that just seems like they have their life together and it stresses you out when you see those, mute it. Someone really happy when you're having a hard time, mute it. They don't know. And it's really about protecting your peace. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
And I think that's such good advice that a lot of people don't think about, because you are going on, most of the time you're going on your social media feed to distract yourself or kind of to hopefully make yourself feel happier. And yeah, why would you get on there? Like, if you're self-conscious about your body, don't follow a bunch of like fitness influencers or models or anything if that's something that's going to make you feel bad about yourself. And it's not against anyone of that. Like, nothing that they're doing is wrong, but just like you said, you have to protect your inner peace. And I think anyone would tell their friend to do the same thing. And I think because it's so much easier to give other people grace than yourself as well. And you have always been so good about giving other people grace, and I'm really proud of you for now seeing that you're doing that for yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just feel so left out of so many things right now that this is just something that's helpful for me.
I know you've said before that healing isn't linear. And so what does that look like in your day-to-day life?
So, like I said, I took 6 weeks off work and I expected myself to just be healed after the 6 weeks. Like, you had 6 weeks to get it together. You're back. Right before I came back to work, I found out someone very close to me was pregnant. It was literally like the weekend before I went back to work. And I was so elated for them, but it also just was honestly quite devastating because they were someone that I had written down 3 people in my notebook that could be a support system for me or that I could go to. And I intentionally wrote down people that weren't pregnant, or didn't have kids, and kind of a silly thing because you don't really know when somebody's going to get pregnant, and just the timing of it was really, really wild. And I was really disappointed in myself because I ugly cried the whole weekend right before I went back to work. And I was like, I just had 6 weeks to fix this. And I was doing so well. And now this is happening. Well, I've really had to learn. And honestly, I learned this from the person that was pregnant. She's still a great support system to me. And she just told me, healing isn't linear. And just because like I have a bad day in the middle of a bunch of good ones doesn't mean that I'm going to sink back into a dark place. It's normal to have days that something random triggers you and you don't know what it's going to be. And that comes back into giving yourself grace and taking those days to just relax. And healing isn't linear. So things are going to trigger you and upset you. I mean, it could be a decade from now. Something could happen that could upset me because 10 years from now, I'll still not have ever been able to carry my baby. Something could upset me then. It could be my child coming to me with questions or something that upsets me. And I'm going to give myself grace.
And I think too that something for people to keep in mind is that unless you've known someone that has had to go through IVF or you had to go through it yourself, it would be easier to sit there and not understand some of the reactions. I feel like how much seeing someone's baby shower or birth announcement or anything like that affects you. My mother-in-law was asking me about you the other day. We just started talking about IVF and what a miraculous scientific, it's such a miracle and it's
And
crazy. But also we were talking about the women that were the first people to go through this. When you explain the procedure, I mean, it is scary. And then to know at that point, you really weren't sure what kind of risks it would be or how successful it would be. But that just explains the desire to have a child. Women are willing to put themselves in that position to be able to do that. And even still, years and years and years later that you guys are still doing that. I mean, that just shows how innate desire is to have a baby. And I think it could be somewhat easy for someone to say that's not ever wanted to have a child or that has easily been able to have a child to sit there and not understand those emotions, but they've never been in your chair, your seat. So
yeah. And I was going to this procedure after a very smart doctor had said, no, you could have a heart attack doing this.
right.
And I was like, where's the waiver? I will sign it. I don't care. I want to do this. And so it was really scary. And now looking back, I'm like, that was very brave of me. Mom was like, that was very brave.
It's very brave.
And Mom said I didn't stop you because I would have done the same thing.
Well, how do you know when you need to slow down and give yourself grace?
When you start to feel claustrophobic, when something triggers you, and when you don't feel like yourself.
Set those boundaries, and
boundaries are so important. And you might feel awkward setting a boundary, but it's better to set that boundary and protect yourself than to not set the boundary and then do something that's out of character or embarrasses you and then feel guilty about it. And then you're going to be spiraling from that anyways, when it's better to just put the boundary in place. So I think you give yourself grace. A lot of times when you feel guilty for doing it, that's when you're like, I need to be giving myself grace. Because if you feel guilty for taking that time to do what it is you need to do to take care of yourself, that's the most important time to give yourself grace. I want to encourage people because I'm outspoken, Caitlin, but if this were happening to you, you are so private that I worry that you wouldn't come out and ask for help or that you wouldn't give yourself grace. So, I mean, even if it's not natural for whoever's listening, it's even more important for you to do it.
Mm-hmm. And I read this book. One of my friends actually recommended it to me, and it's called Boundaries, and it's by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And that is a really good book about the key concept is frames boundaries as personal property lines that define your responsibility over your own feelings, choices, and behaviors. And I mean, I think that's a really good tool if anyone needs
I
something
do
like
too.
that.
And if you're
Yeah.
uncomfortable setting boundaries, that's probably even more reason to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what would you say to the version of yourself from a year ago?
This sucks. And it's okay to just say this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was reading a book, Treasures in the Dark, and it's by Catherine Wolfe, and she has had 7 vertebral artery dissections. She has a rare neurological condition. She's partly paralyzed, and she wrote this book. It's all these devotionals about her experience, and one of them, she said that she was going in for a really big surgery, and people from their church all came together to pray for her. And when everyone filed out, one of her friends hung back and said, "This sucks. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Like, this really sucks." And that was the best thing that she heard all day, because you don't always have to put a bow on everything. And I know as a friend and a supporter, you want to do that. But as the listener, it's infuriating, and like you'll ask for that when you need it. But I think just listening and being supportive, and Canton, you probably learned this for being there for me, is it's really important. You don't have to put a bow on everything because you can't fix it. And yes, I know God is great and God is good and working his plan, and I can still be upset. Two things can be true. So it feels diminishing, even though when that's not what you're trying to do, when you say, but everything will be okay. Let's think positive. I'm just like, okay, you don't think I'm trying to think positively right now? Like, you don't think I'm trying? I just need to vent in this moment. And so I think that's really important.
And knowing, like, for someone else's, when someone's telling them what they're going through, yes, just saying that this sucks, because it was so hard at the beginning. Well, honestly, probably for a while with you. As your big sister, I wanted to, just like you're saying, wrap everything up with a bow. And it was so hard to learn that, to learn to not do that. Because I wanted to help, but then it was just not helping in the way that I was intending at all. Because I wasn't trying to undermine what you're going through, but I know that has to be how it comes off. And so that's where intention is so hard for both parties, and how you interpret things and then how someone intended it to be.
I don't think anybody's coming from a bad place,
Right?
Or I hope they're not, but it still stings, and you get tired of having to make everybody else feel better.
Yeah.
And so they'll be like, think positive. And you're like, yeah, I know, just because I don't want to get into this with every single, like, this is exhausting. But I just think that that's a boundary you can set as someone going through the tunnel, and it's something you can be aware of as somebody who's a supporter.
Were there seasons where prayer felt more difficult for you?
Yes. So that's another thing, is that the power of prayer. And before I went through all of this, I thought prayer was very, close your eyes, bow your head, our Father who art in heaven, and that you had to come to him grateful, perfect, in a place of peace and thankfulness. And I didn't feel that way. So I was like, how do I pray right now? And there was a time where I wasn't praying, but I still was asking for prayer, and people were praying for me. And the power of prayer is so real. That's why I try to be very intentional about praying for people. And when I say I'm going to pray for you, to pray for them. Whether you keep a note in your phone or just if you pray in groups, like, God, I've talked to a lot of people recently that are really struggling, whatever it may be, prayer is so important. And then I learned too that I don't have to come to God in this place of perfection, because that's why Jesus died. That's not the point. The point is to come to him where you're at, and he's okay with that. And he's wants to hold you and love you during this time. And so, that was a way I was able to release control, is by just meeting God where I was at. I remember when my doctor said, if you were my sister, I would highly recommend you not getting pregnant. I went to my car, and Mills and I didn't realize that that was going to be the result of that appointment. So we had driven separately. And I remember I got in my car and I turn on Christian music and I scream cried. Like I scream cried. And in a different way, that was like a form of worship and a form of prayer, because I was like, I'm not okay with this. I don't understand what your plan is. What are you doing? Please give me the peace to be, um, praise you in this valley, because I've been singing my whole Christian life about praising God in the darkness and valley, but I'm really in the darkness and valley for the first time, and help me to find the strength to praise you and keep hope during this time. And so I would meet God in a lot of dark spaces. Like sometimes I would just have the strength to be like, God, why? And that was my prayer for the day. Um, and I just think keeping an open line of communication via prayer is really important, because now looking back, I can see little God winks, and I could even see God winks as I was moving through it. But I can't imagine going through this without God, because to think of to not having God to turn to know He's in control would be terrifying.
Right.
It's already terrifying enough. And, I think God works through people, and the people that have been supportive of me, like you, I felt God through that.
Okay. All right. So what has kept your faith strong during all of this?
I think just that with God, I don't have to go through this alone. God made this world so that all things were new, and it wasn't meant to have hurt in it. But we live in a world where there's sickness, infertility, loss. And going through this doesn't mean having faith in God doesn't mean that I'm not going to suffer. It just means I'm not going to have to suffer alone. And I've
That's
never felt
good.
abandoned by God ever. I don't know why I've had 2 dissections. I don't know why I can't carry a baby, and I'll never know that. But on my darkest days, the fact that I've had someone to cry why to, or that I've had something to turn to, has given me so much peace. And I've just never doubted that God's there. And when I'm sad, um, prayer has just really helped me. And I think that there's a misconception that you can't ask God tough questions. God wants you to ask tough questions. And you don't have to be some perfect person to come to God. I mean, I would come to God after just having a day of being so angry and bitter, and not, not like the ideal Christian, just a bitter, angry person. But I still came to God at the end of the day. I finally got this understanding. I don't have to show up as a perfect person. I don't have to have gone to church so many times or said all my please and thank yous to pray to God. And because sometimes that makes it harder when you're going through a hard time and suffering to come to God, because you're like, I've been so bitter. Why would God listen to me? Um, but I think this is the closest I've ever been in my faith.
That is great, Maddie. That's great. The peace that you have had has been really great to see through this. I mean, of course, it's still hard and there's still struggles, but I can see that faith that you have in God.
Like a
It really,
different peace in
yeah.
life. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way I'm able to sit in this moment. And this morning was a tough morning for me because something was brought up about my birthday, and I was just like, I don't even know what I want to do on my birthday, because last birthday I just cried about the fact that I was 31 with no plan for kids, and then I start thinking about how I want more than one, and then I'll have to find another surrogate or adopt, or it's so easy to spiral. Or
Mm-hmm.
even like, what if Caitlin doesn't get approved? What if the transfer doesn't work? Like, so many what ifs, and I've never in my life been able to sit in the present, and God is the only reason that I think that I'm able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only answer. How am
Yeah.
I mean, I've been spiraling for 2 years, and all of a sudden I'm not. I know that he has a plan, and it doesn't look like how my plan did, but I'm seeing beautiful things in the suffering.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, Maddie. Um, so your faith in God has strengthened throughout this journey. And then also I feel like your marriage with Mills not that it was ever by any means weak, but I mean, you guys have been through so much and it has just been getting stronger and stronger. But how do you feel like this journey has affected your marriage?
I thought Mills was my best friend, but we're on a whole different level now. We've done couples therapy, not because we were in a bad place, but because we were going through traumatic things. And I wanted to do it because I was feeling so much guilt for being sick and taking away. So I felt like I was just taking away so much from him. And he was a caretaker, and Mills is such a good caretaker that sometimes like he'll prioritize that over taking care of himself. And I mean, nobody knows how to navigate trauma, especially at this age, especially when it's your whole world is rocked upside down. So I have no shame in saying that we did that and still do. And it has been a really big game changer because we come to couples therapy and I can say what's been in my head, like what I've been thinking. Brene Brown, she has a Netflix special and she talks about how her and her husband say the story I'm telling myself is, instead of coming to your spouse and saying, I feel like you're annoyed with me, or you're annoyed with me. Say like the story I'm telling myself is you're annoyed with me because da 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 da. And it's like, no, I'm not annoyed with you at all. Actually, the opposite. I haven't felt well today, and I'm just annoyed that you have to just be taking care of me all the time. And I don't want that to come off as me being agitated with you. It's the opposite. And so I'm telling myself this story, but this is actually what's happening. And Mills, men might say I'm not doing therapy or I don't know, but Mills never did that. Mills has been, whatever you need to do, I'm there. And that has just been amazing. He's actually the one where he's like, we're going to church today. We're going to church. Like he's such a driver in making sure that God is at the center of our marriage. And like I said, there have been times I didn't want to pray. There have been times I didn't want to go to church. And Mills is like, we're going to go. And I have been annoyed with him at times because I did not want to go. I was frustrated and I'm like, I'm not going. And we went. And I was always glad that we went. And Mills has just really been such a strength in our household, and it's given me so much respect for him. And I just feel like I can come to him with absolutely anything.
So would you say how you guys have protected your marriage during this heavy season would be church, couples therapy? Is there anything else that you would add to that?
And then protecting our peace from what we
Yes.
do. We'll say there might be an event that's, in our neighborhood, we have a lot of kid friendly events that everyone goes to, and there's the adult aspect of it, but their kids are all playing a Easter egg hunt or a parade or whatever. And all of our friends are together hanging out. And some of our friends that don't have kids go because it's not difficult for them to see kids, but Mills and I will do something else, something fun on those days. And we've also had to say no to weddings. I've had to say no to bachelorette parties and showers and all sorts of things while I was healing from my dissection, just because my body was not in a place to go. And even though we hated to miss those life-changing events for some of our closest friends who every single person understood, we would do something fun together in place of that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I can't remember what was happening. And that's just even more of a testament to how important it was to do this. It might have been Mother's Day weekend or something, but Mills took me to the mountains for the weekend and we had
I think it was
the
Mother's
best
Day
time.
weekend.
Just so I wasn't home and we put my phone away so I wasn't seeing all the posts, and we went to the mountains. And my God, what even weekend was it? Because my head wasn't there. It was, I'm at the mountains with my husband having an incredible time.
That's good. That's good advice. All right. So some questions that I have that kind of could be specifically advice for others. So what would you say to the woman who feels like she's falling behind everyone else?
Oof. This is a tough one because I struggle with this myself. But I will say from experience that I think it's very important to do all the things to protect your peace. That's the most important time to protect your peace, is when you feel like everyone else is getting ahead of you. Try to find friends that aren't on a different timeline than you, because it's really hard to, if you're continuing to surround yourself with people that are on that different timeline, it feels like you're behind. And I have reasons for my timeline. Like I want my parents to be around with my kids as long as possible. I want my grandparents to be around with my kids as long as possible. I want them to be close in age with their cousins as possible. I want to get started so I can have my second. I'm at risk for having a stroke where I can't be around my kids in the capacity that I can right now while healthy. Those are all things that aren't in my control and are in God's control. And so those are times where I have to do what I can on this side of earth, which is protect my peace and guard my heart. And it isn't on your timeline. And that's something you have to grieve. And you're allowed to grieve for as long as you want to. So I would tell you to grieve that timeline, give yourself grace, and guard your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And give control to God.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
Mm-hmm. That's good. How can friends and family better support someone who's struggling?
Knowing that when people are going through a tough time, validate them. Because especially when you love the person, you really want to fix it. Like we said earlier, validation is so important and not trying to fix it. And that feels like it goes against everything that's in your body. Because even now, people will text me listening to the podcast and be like, yeah, I'm struggling. I want to fix it for them. And I'm sitting here telling everyone, don't do that. But validation and not trying to fix it. And also, like, it's totally fine to say, but just be careful. I know somebody that went through IVF that has 6 kids now, da 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 da. And or I know somebody who adopted and it turned out perfect. That's all helpful, but like, that's not going to be our journey. You don't know what our journey is going to be. And then, so just being really, really mindful of what you say. And if you don't know, just ask, like, what's hurtful? How can I be a good support system to you? And I know that you guys have done a really good job of that with me, to the point where even when I've had a really good few days, I might say, okay, today's a tough day for me. I'm feeling kind of hormonal. And I feel like you guys are always really, I mean, it's not like the world rotates around me, but when I have a tough day, you guys are really mindful of that and supportive. And you'll talk to me on the phone, you'll FaceTime me with the boys, or do whatever it is that you know makes me happy. And just the effort means a lot. Or just giving me, you'll just say, well, just turn on TV or just relax or do what you need to do. Do what you need to do doesn't mean go off the rails or, do something that's a temporary fix, but not towards your longer term goals. I would say do what you need to do means give yourself grace. Because it's a very big difference in giving yourself grace than just like giving yourself permission to go off the rails. And it's a slippery slope. And so, yeah, that was kind of a tangent, but still important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
What have you learned through this process as being my support system, through my mood swings, through all of these things that you can't fix with me constantly calling you or sometimes going silent? I mean, talk about that and I guess how you've navigated that.
So I think a lot of it is how I was saying earlier, where, unless you've been with someone that's had to go through IVF or you've gone through it yourself, it's hard to understand what all it entails and how difficult that whole journey is. And so I've just really had to educate myself that there are so many steps in this. And it's like you want to celebrate each one, but then at the same time, like you're waiting for the next step and the results for the next step. And it's just this long journey of that, and kind of educating myself of what that looks like and how to be supportive of you through it. And then also trying to be mindful with my own children, because I'm sitting over here in my house with my boys and everything, and honestly kind of being happy here, but also being a good sister to you with what you're going through. And I know you love Jack and Graham to death, and I want to be able to send pictures to you, but then I want to know that that's what you want from me, and I don't want to do it at times when it's not healthy for you, but sometimes I know that that can make you smile. So it's just kind of figuring out, you know, uh, just how to be the best support that I can to you through all of this.
And you've done an amazing job at that. I think that you've just been very good at keeping an open line of communication, saying, hey, what can I do? Is it okay if I send a picture of the boys? Which it was. And it just meant the world that you asked. And I think what you and Mills have both done, and mom and dad and Brian, is you've embraced the abnormal. So weird requests that I've had that are, again, like not off the rails. If we're somewhere and I'm like, can we go home at a weird time, or I need to go home, not making a big deal out of it and just letting me go home. Or if we're somewhere where there are a lot of babies or something like that, I feel like you guys have had an exit plan before I even realized it. And so I think that you guys have just been so mindful and so open with communication. I'm just so appreciative of that. You've been the best, Caitlin. And that was all before you even offered to be our surrogate. You've just really been so supportive, and sometimes you've educated yourself to the point where I ask you, you are a doctor and you've educated yourself on this, so I'll ask you questions because you seem to know the process way better than I do. And that's so thoughtful. I will never be able to thank you enough, and I know I keep saying that theme throughout the podcast, but not just for being our surrogate, but all the support you've offered through my dissections and through this IVF journey.
Well, I've been very happy to do it, and I love you so much, and honestly just want to get you through this tunnel, providing as much oxygen for you as I can.
You've been there with the oxygen mask. You really have been.
And then we're planning maybe for the next episode, getting Mills on and asking him
Mills is my husband.
Yes, yeah, getting him on and handled everything and how he's felt and all that. And honestly, I do think this whole thing has been so good for me and you, because we have asked each other questions that we wouldn't have really thought to ask, or had this has been designated time to ask this stuff. So I think that's helpful. And I think it'll be really interesting and helpful having Mills on as well and kind of asking him different things. And I don't know, I don't know if he thinks it's weird, me carrying the baby. I know he's obviously thankful, but I'm sure he has thoughts about
I'm
it.
interested to know, how do you, because you take care of your wife a certain way when she's pregnant. So how do you take care of your wife's sister?
Yeah, like you said, is he going to be chasing me around with the
water bottle?
Yeah.
He'll be chasing both of us around.
Yeah. So if anyone does have any questions that they want us to ask Mills, please send those along, because we got to get ready for that. So I was thinking that we could close this kind of segment of questions with this one question. If someone listening feels like they're carrying something impossibly heavy today, what's one truth about Jesus that you hope they could hold on to until they can believe it for themselves?
He doesn't expect you to carry it. He wants to carry your burden for you, and you're
Good
not meant
answer.
to carry it.
And I did not give her that before this episode either. That was a good answer. That's so good.
There's a Christian song, Just Be Held, and it's like, why are you crying? I'm here. And that's a great song to just
It is a great song.
Realize that God's in control and you were never meant to carry this burden. It's bigger than you, and God's there.
Amen. That's good. Okay. All right. So, and then we'll close up like we always do, saying what we are grateful for.
I'm grateful for the blastocysts, and that we were able to have that 8th little embryo turn into a blastocyst. I'm so grateful for that.
The little fighter. Mm-hmm. I felt like that was just, symbolic. I don't know, symbolic. Like that just was like hope.
Yeah.
I would say that I am grateful for just our relationship and where we're at, and just how unbelievably close we've gotten. And I love you.
I love you too. You're truly the best, and I'm so blessed to have you as a sister.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to interview Mills together.
Yes, I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Send those questions, text us or message us. message us or let us know what you want to hear from him.
Not gonna prep him.
Yes, no prepping him. All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.